Welcome to Conscious Coupling, where Frederic Gobeil and Christy Whitman share their experiences of creating a conscious, connected relationship. Every week, they give practical tools, steps, and processes to help you find the loving connection with your partner. Let's get into today's conversation with Frederic and Christy.
It's Frederic and Christy, or Christy and
Frederic, or Frederic and
Christy,
or Christy and Frederic.
It's us.
Welcome to our show.
How you doing? So we are talking today about creating healthy boundaries, not only for yourself as an individual, but also as a family. And so we're going to get right into that, because that's one of the things that really changed things for us individually, as a couple, and then also as a family. So go
family
ahead.
Boundaries. It could be family on the brother or sister side, or actually a family boundary, meaning mother or mother-in-law or father-in-law. Often there are situations that come up. We grow up to actually respect our mother, I respect my mother-in-law, my father-in-law. And sometimes we feel like we need to ask permission for certain things that happen in the couple, right? With mother-in-law, or even my mother for my example. And I had to learn how to basically determine what my needs are, what my wants are, what my preferences are, in order to say to my mother, okay, this is working out, this is not working out, Mom. I need your help for this, but this is when it stops. I don't need any more help after that. Like if, for example, we are wanting her to babysit the kids, well, you can babysit the kids from, we need your help from 9 to 3, and then at 3 o'clock,
Go home.
We're kicking you out.
Get the hell out of here.
No,
just kidding.
And she understands that, right? At 3 o'clock, we need our time, we need our space. We're coming back from whatever we're doing, and we want to relax, and we want to stay home and be together. And it doesn't mean after that for her to stick around and be with us. Not that we don't love her, we do, but now she understands that.
Because we've set the boundaries.
Right.
It's us that had to set the boundaries, whereas before we didn't.
And before it was like, oh my God, I'm feeling like she might not understand that. She might feel like we're throwing her out, and she might want to stay with us and maybe eat with us, have dinner with us. Anyways, long story short, she gets it. It's not a question of asking permission. It's a question of understanding what we prefer, what we want, and then stating what we want.
Yeah, so if you have people in your life that really kind of get involved in your relationship, I know, his mother, my mother-in-law, when we're having conversations, if she's visiting us in town, and she hears us, like if we're talking about Jax, our puppy, and what we need to do with him, or our son Alex, or other things, she'll say, well, what we need to do, and we'll say, no, that's not a we, that's an us. So we, as in you, I, and Frederic, don't need to take care of getting the dog trained. We do. It's our dog. And that's just even verbally setting boundaries that's not your place. It's not what you need to be involved with. And I know there's a lot of, and I've had to say that to my mom too, well, we need to do something about it. I'm like, no, Mom, this isn't a we, this is a Frederic and I thing. And parents tend to get very over-involved, or kind of bring themselves into what your family business is. And it's really up to us to share what's okay and what's not okay. We just had my uncle, who I love very much, invite us over for a Father's Day celebration, and he wanted to have a celebration with all the fathers. And the old me, out of respect for my father, and of course respect for my mother because it's her brother, I would have said, sure, we'll go. And I said, well, let me get back to you. I need to talk to Frederic about it. And so that's a way of saying no, of being able to create a boundary. It doesn't have to be no. It doesn't have to be a mean no, and it doesn't have to be anything like that. It could be, well, let me get back to you. Thank you so much for the invitation. And I spoke to Frederic about it, and for different reasons, it just didn't feel good for us to go. But it's like we have the freedom to, it's not an assumption that because we've been invited, we have to go. And because we've made that boundary, I discussed it with my mom and I said, for these reasons, and because it is Father's Day, and if the boys want to celebrate Frederic and I want to celebrate Dad and other different reasons, these are the reasons we are not going to go. And she didn't try to talk me into it or say, oh, well, you should, because she knows that as we've been going along and creating our boundaries, saying, well, thank you for the invitation, that's not going to work for us, and we stay solid in that space, then we're teaching them what our boundaries are. So not only did I not get pressure from my mom to, oh, come on, your uncle invited you, you gotta go, the whole family's going, the whole thing. She was like, okay, well, we're gonna go. And it's like, perfect, great, have a good time. And that feels better for us, and we don't feel obligated. And I was able to call my uncle back and just say, thank you so much for the invitation, and we'll have to get together soon. That night's not gonna work for us, and we'll get you with the kids soon, because he wants to see the kids, right? So it's an opportunity to just stop and say, okay, what works for us? Just because an invitation comes in or a family thing that's happening, it doesn't mean you're absolutely obligated to do those things. And you could just take a minute and ask yourself, what do I feel like doing? Because that was the first question before I even asked Frederic. What do I feel like doing? And for me, it was like, it really feels like a no. And then I shared it with Frederic. Here's the situation. We've been invited. I feel this way. What do you think? And then he was able to sit with himself and go, yeah, you're right. I would, you could speak to that.
Yeah, well, for me, what comes up is another situation. It's more when we have big families and we're in places where it's Christmas time, for example, where we have a lot of family members that either come into town or invite us, and we're in a situation where we've got 2-3 days of parties or family members that we're meeting, and those boundaries of actually what you're saying is listening to yourself and saying to yourself, do I really feel like going to each and every one of these occasions to see all of my family members? Now, yes, for some of you who have big families, you want to be with your family, I get it, but sometimes it's good to also see what's inside and what feels good inside. And I remember for you were telling me when we were in Montreal, well, today, or tomorrow, I think I'm going to take a day for myself. And for me, I would respect that of her, because she would be able to figure out that she needed to kind of rejuvenate and get her energy back in order to continue maybe seeing the next day another part of my family or her family even. So
yeah, so if there's like a lot of things in a row, like when we would go to Montreal for the summer, there was like his mom's birthday, and then immediately after there was Father's Day, and then immediately after was his birthday, and it just felt like a lot. And so then I was just I would have to check in with myself saying, I'm gonna opt out of this one. You go have fun with your family, you go have fun with your mom, doing whatever you wanna do, I'm gonna take a me day. And there's a part of us that, and partly maybe even inside of you, like, well, how could you do that? Aren't you kind of obligated? Isn't your husband going to want you there? Isn't your mother-in-law going to, or your father-in-law going to be upset?
Ask questions. Where's Christy? How come she's not with you?
Right. Are they going to take it personally? And it's something that in the beginning they might be like questioning, because I know that happened. Like, well, is she not feeling well? And it was just a matter of, no, she really just needs to take her alone time today. She really needs to refuel. And when you're coming from a place of, I'm needing to self-regulate, this is what's important to me, I want to take time for myself so I feel refreshed and renewed, and you're coming from that solid place, not a wishy, well, I think I want to, but maybe, then there's, oh, well, she's not really sure, let's try to talk her into it. But when I come from a place of a decision has been already made, whether it's with my mother-in-law or my mother, that this is what I'm doing today, you guys have a great time. I've trained them to understand that I'm not going to be there every single time, all the time, because I need to self-regulate. And sometimes it feels good to participate, and other times it doesn't. And so that's how we create healthy boundaries.
And the love is still there, right?
Yeah,
It doesn't
it's
mean
not a
that
cut
the love
off.
is not there anymore, and there's no anger that's with it. There's no resentment that is with it. It's just taking care of yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So family boundaries are important because it's important to understand that even just in your own family dynamic, with your kids, with each other, to be able to really sit with, this is a yes for me and this is a no for me. And the way you know that is it a hell yes? Like, yeah, I'm excited about doing that, then go for it, then do it. If there's, what we learned from Karen Wilson is if there's a little no, then it's a no. If there's a little question about it, then follow that insight, follow that guidance, follow
Notice it
that.
inside.
Yeah, listen to what that no is. For me, when my uncle asked, I'm like, that's a little no. And so I'm going to sit with that. And the more I discovered it, I'm like, that really isn't a little no, it's a big no. And the more I allowed myself to feel that, and it wasn't about my uncle, it was about other situations, but and for him to sit with it too, he's like, yeah, that doesn't feel good. And we're able to come to that kind of conclusion. So
Or that's not my preference, right?
Right,
I prefer to be with my sons, and I prefer to be celebrating with her. I'm going to call my father. I'm going to be busy anyways during that day, and for me to celebrate it, I want to celebrate it with my immediate family.
Absolutely.
That feels good for me.
And then, give yourself the permission to speak your truth. Because so many of us, I see this with my clients all the time, and we see that when the couples that we coach in our coaching, coupling, and in our programs and in our retreats, is that the wife or the husband or someone in the couple is afraid to say how they feel because they're afraid of the reaction of the other person. So, like, for example, in the past, if I were to say, yeah, my uncle invited us to, this party or whatever with all the uncles and cousins and everybody, do you want to go? And he felt no inside. He felt it was really, well, it's kind of my day and I really don't think, but he didn't communicate that to me. He just held that inside and thought, well, she's probably going to want to go, so I'm just going to say, yeah, that's fine. He's not being true to himself, and then we end up going, and there could be some passive-aggressive, sideways anger or resentment or something that comes out. And that's where, when we're truthful, when we literally just take the time to say, we don't have to answer someone right there and then, right? We can say, you know what, let me think about that. Let me get back to you. Thank you for the offer. Let me see how that fits in my schedule. There's lots of different ways to create space for yourself so that you can have the time to think and feel about the invitation or what's being offered or the decision that you have to make. Give yourself enough respect, honor yourself enough, honor your couple enough to take that space and decide for yourself. And decide, does this feel like a yes? Are we moving in the direction of yes? Or does this feel like a no? Is there a little bit of a no in there? If there's a no, then let's discover this. And then the third thing is really just being honest with yourself, with your partner, and saying, I would prefer to be with my family. I would prefer to not do that. I would prefer to whatever it is. And then you discuss this with preferences.
Because yes, it's not an automatic, you are in a couple, we are in a couple, but it's not an automatic, well, we have to do everything together. We still are individuals that have their own needs, that have their own views on things, and so we still have to talk about whether each one of us want to do what we have planned to do, and there were some times that where we were even, there's a little hair that's flying around.
He's not going crazy, folks.
Some dog hair, some new pet hair. So there were some times where she would tell me, yes, I really don't feel like going, and sometimes I would respond even to her like, and you could say that I really want you with me in that space, and so we would try and see what would work, because of the fact that I wanted to spend some time with her there. Maybe it was just, okay, well, I'll come over for an hour or two,
right,
with you, so that we could be together, and then for her to take some time afterwards with herself re-energized, then she'll leave after a couple of hours.
Yeah.
And so in that, we had our communication, and we felt what felt good, we felt heard from one another.
Yeah.
Right?
Because you bring up a good point. I mean, he is himself. Like there's a containment of.
Yes, continue.
Yes, he likes to be touched. That's his love thing. He'll start drooling in a minute. No, but it's like there's a place where he begins, and then there's energy between us. Even if we're touching, I am still a separate entity. And there's some couples, I know they do that with celebrities, where it's like Bennifer and different things, where literally the couples try to fuse their names together. We're not two individuals that come into a couple and become one. He still is Frederic. I'm still Christy. I get to keep my name. He gets to keep. We're not Fristy or Frederic, Christeric or anything like that. We're Frederic and Christy. And we're two separate total units with our own unique divine flowing through us, with our own unique experiences and preferences and wants and desires. And then we have this beautiful energy that is between us. And what we individually send out and into the relationship by the thoughts that we think and the emotions that we have, it comes back to us. And that's the third entity that we create as a couple. We're not fused as one, where that's what we both learned. I mean, I remember growing up, and we would go to an ice cream shop, and the guy would say to my dad, "What do you want?" And he would look at my mom and go, "What are you having?" And she said, "Well, I'm having chocolate chip." And he'd go, "I'll have a chocolate chip."
Yeah, he still does that.
He still does that. Yeah, he still does that. It's like, what
we're at a restaurant, and he's like, yeah, "Okay, sir, what do you want?
What do we have? What are we ordering?" And it's like, it's just total fusion. That fusion, as Karen Wilson talks about, it really is part of being in the drama triangle, and it creates more drama. It creates stickiness. It doesn't create a sense of freedom at all. And you're so stuck in roles. We're going to be talking about that in bite-sized pieces during this podcast. But you have to remember that it's like, you get to express how you feel. But before you do that, you have to take the time with yourself to ask yourself, well, I don't know, how do I feel about that? Give me a moment to think on that. And then how do I feel about it? What do I prefer? What would I want? And when you're coming from that place and you can communicate it, not like, oh, well, would you be okay? It's like, I'd prefer to go for an hour and then take my own car, and then I'll leave when I want to.
Right.
Does that work for you?
Right. Yes, it does. Or no, you know what? It doesn't work for me. I would really rather you come over and be with me. And, there's no drama in it as well. We could just talk about it together. That's the important part. And by the way, I want to mention that if you do want to have answers to your questions about family boundaries, you want to know more, you want to have the steps of how to recognize these family boundaries and the drama, maybe the family drama together that's associated sometimes with it all, go to connectedcoupling.com and just fill out our forms, and we'll get back to you.
Absolutely. So the last thing I want to leave with is that it's okay to be in a place of healthy selfish, right? We're so taught that we can't be selfish, and that means don't only think about yourself, right? And healthy selfish is having enough time to honor yourself, to respect yourself, to feel yourself, to know yourself, to self-regulate. That's a healthy selfish, and we must do that first, starting with ourselves, in order for our couple to be healthy, our finances to be healthy, our careers to be healthy. Everything is an extension of ourselves, and of course our deepest connection to our divine self. And even taking time to connect with your divine self is a healthy selfish. So practice being in a space of healthy selfish and self-love, and communicate what you want. That is in a way of taking action from that place of honoring and respecting and loving yourself. So, any last words?
Speak your truth in an honest and loving way that can be done.
Absolutely. So next episode, we're going to be talking about what to do with the kiddos. And one of the things that has come up with our listeners is asking us to talk about, what do you do when kids get bullied? How do we handle it as a conscious couple? What are the steps that we take to resolve these type of things? And just how, kids have their own dramas. They have their own contrast that they are going through. And what do you do as conscious parents to support them but not be sucked into their whole stories? So go to connectedcoupling.com and for more information. And thank you so much for watching. And we really, truly hope that these podcasts, these episodes are helping you move along in your consciousness, in your awareness, in your love, and in your connection.
See you in the next show.
Thanks for listening to Conscious Coupling with Frederic Gobeil and Christy Whitman. If you like our show and want to know more, check out ChristyWhitman.com. And please leave us a review on iTunes. Learn how to turn your partner into your soulmate. Join us again next week for another powerful episode.